Chapter 6. Sebastian. 2 weeks elapsed and I heard nothing from Natalie. Her brother had called asking if I would consider giving her a job at Zenkan. He had sounded desperate. Natalie, one of those people who never stops, was probably very difficult to be around right now. I reminded him I'd already made her an offer years ago and told him I'd consider offering her a job again, but only if Natalie was the one asking. Half hopeful, I waited for a call from her. But when weeks went by and I didn't hear from her, I figured that was my answer. I knew Natalie was hard-headed. Once she set her mind to something, it was unlikely to change. I moved on with my life and did the best I could daily to work on building my company. My focused efforts showed positively in our increased ranking. One Saturday, I woke up happy for the first time in weeks, looking forward to the day ahead. I promised Zara a picnic lunch at the beach, and later we would attend Augustine's new restaurant grand opening. So excited for my best friend and happy that I could help him out. The night before, I dreamt that Natalie and I reconciled and became best friends, to everyone's amazement. Waking up disappointed when I realized it was all a dream. I would do anything to put all this discord behind us and to feel comfortable in her presence. Rolling out of bed, I headed to the bathroom. I met Zara downstairs, dressed and ready for our Saturday day out. The nanny had already prepared some food, so we packed it in a wicker basket and headed to one of the best spots on the beach.
"Thank you, Daddy. I'm so happy going to the beach with you,"
Zara giggled and grabbed my hand, swinging it as we walked. I felt warm all over, assured this was exactly where I was supposed to be at this moment. Most days I still missed Clara terribly, and the beautiful times we had spent together. But it had been 6 years now, almost 7. In all that time, my consolation had been Zara and Zenkan, and both were growing before my eyes. We spent several hours at the beach, then we packed up and went home, exhausted. After a prolonged siesta, we both excitedly got ready for Augustine's dinner party. I dressed in my best suit and helped Zara zip up her pale blue glittering gown. "Don't you look all grown up?" I smiled at her, getting a glimpse of the young lady she was becoming. Zara smiled back, but I could see she was trying to contain her excitement.
"Uncle Augustine's party is going to be so beautiful. He said they're going to have lights floating on the water, too. I can't wait to see it all."
I could feel her trembling in anticipation. The nanny assisted by styling Zara's hair while I finished getting ready. Natalie would be there. I wanted to look my best for her as well as Augustine. I didn't know why, but I still cared what she thought of me. This would be the first time in each other's presence since the day I'd given her a ride. On the way to the party, we stopped to pick up Rita's mother, Jane. She was my date, sort of, though I only considered her a friend. Zara and I went to her bakery all the time, and when I'd mentioned Augustine's opening party, she'd expressed a desire to go. She was so curious to see what desserts he was going to serve. Was he going to be a rival for her delicacies, or perhaps a potential customer? Either way, the party would be fun. When I said she should come, she'd replied, "Great, it's a date." I didn't want her to get the wrong idea, but it was too late to take back the invitation. Besides, I couldn't let her go by herself. After picking up Jane, I noticed Zara pouting in the back seat. When I asked her what was wrong, she shrugged her shoulders and said everything was fine. I didn't believe her, but Jane started asking me questions about the restaurant, so we dropped the subject. We arrived early. As I parked my car, Augustine hurried out towards me in his pristine chef's attire to give me a bear hug. Just then, Natalie walked past, looking dazzling in her red glittering sequin dress. I blinked rapidly and bit my lips. I tried to focus as I shook hands with Augustine and introduced him to Jane. Augustine and I walked towards the party tents as Jane and Zara went ahead of us. "Thank you for coming, man. I couldn't do this without you," Augustine said, but I was only half listening. As he continued talking, I tried not to think of how good Natalie looked in that dress. Hey, he nudged me and followed my eyes, which were still on Natalie. His jaw dropped when he noticed the object of my interest was his sister. He tapped me again and I jumped. Sorry, what were you saying? I asked, with a voice I didn't recognize as mine. Are you staring at my sister? He whispered. When I glared at him in response, he roared with laughter, drawing the attention of those around us, including his sister. However, Natalie turned quickly away as soon as our eyes met.
Natalie!
Zara cried in excitement and rushed from Jane's side to Natalie. Over the years that Augustine and I had been friends, Zara and Natalie had formed a special bond. Zara admired Natalie and always talked about wanting to be on TV one day just like Natalie. "Hello, beautiful lady," Natalie said to Zara as she gave her a hug. "I love your dress."
"Thank you,"
Zara giggled with delight.
"I love your dress too."
"Why, thank you, sweetheart." Natalie smiled at Zara, then her eyes met mine. I almost lost my step in the glow of her smile. She usually never directed one my way. Sure enough, after a moment, her smile faded, especially when her eyes darted in Jane's direction. Augustine had a puzzled expression on his face as he looked between Natalie and me, but I tapped his shoulder and said, "Let's go get this party started." He smiled, and we all continued on to the party. As Augustine's best friend, I stood up to give the opening speech. I shared stories about his passions and his dream of opening a place of his own. From the first time we met, I knew Augustine was meant for great things. Over the years, he has been my rock and support, and I hope I have done as much for him. I can't think of anyone more deserving of success. For those who haven't previously tried his creations, you are in for a wonderful surprise. To Augustine, I said, raising my glass. May this be the beginning of more wonders to come. Cheers. Cheers, resounded from the crowd. Others came up and gave toasts and told their stories of how Augustine had shown compassion and brought joy to them. So many that I once again thanked my lucky stars that he chose me to be his best friend. After a while, I searched around, looking for Natalie and Zara, but I couldn't see them anywhere. Where had my dazzling beauties gone?
"Looking for someone?"
Lisa asked, noting my glances at the crowd. Do you know where Natalie and Zara are? I asked.
"They went to the restroom. They should be back soon," she answered.
I think I'll go look for them, I said, and headed toward the foyer where the bathrooms were. Just as I was about to pass an alcove meant for people waiting to be seated, I heard Natalie's voice and stopped short, just out of sight. I knew I shouldn't eavesdrop, but it was too much of a temptation, and when I heard what they were talking about, I couldn't stop myself. "You can talk to me, Zara, if you want to. I've noticed you haven't been your usual happy self this evening," I heard Natalie say.
"It's fine,
Zara began, but hesitated for a second. She took a deep breath before continuing.
"I don't like that Dad brought Jane. I don't want him to replace my mom, especially not with my friend's mother."
"Oh, I see. I understand why that would be hard for you. Do you have a hard time when he goes on dates with other women? Or is it just Jane that is troubling you?"
"Dad never goes on dates,"
Zara said, and I almost laughed. Of course she was right. After Clara died, I had no interest or time for dating.
"I don't understand why he would start now. Is it not good enough that he has me?"
While I wanted to assure Zara that she was everything I needed, I also wanted to hear what Natalie had to say. "Of course you're good enough, Zara. Your dad loves you more than anything in this world, and he knows no one could ever replace your mother."
"Then why did he bring Jane?"
Zara asked. "Well, sometimes grown-ups like to spend time with other grown-ups. Someone that's interested in talking about the things they're interested in. Just like you have your friends who are your age. You wouldn't want to talk about boys to your dad, would you?" Natalie asked. Zara gave an emphatic, "No way!" I had to cover my mouth again to keep from laughing. And you wouldn't want your dad to talk to you about all the boring stuff he does at work, would you?
No,
Zara answered.
Maybe he wants to spend time with Jane to talk about things that are important to him and that he knows wouldn't interest you. Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess so. It's still kind of weird, though.
Of course it is. It's been just the two of you for a long time. I think you should talk to your dad about it, and I'll bet he'll explain it better. No one can replace your mom, and even if he cares for someone else, that doesn't mean he'll love you any less.
Okay,
Zara said, and I could hear in her voice that she was feeling better.
How about we get back to the party? I'm ready for dessert. How about you?
And they both giggled. I tiptoed away from the alcove, not wanting to be caught listening. When I was about 10 feet away, I started walking back in their direction, just as they came out of the alcove. "There you two are," I said. Zara smiled at me and rushed up to give me a big hug.
"Daddy!"
I looked at Natalie as she watched us, and I saw the affection she held for Zara in her eyes. Natalie caught me watching her and stiffened. My spirits fell at her response to me. How I wish she would look at me like that. Zara and I turned to return to our table, but I stopped when I noticed Natalie wasn't moving to follow. "Are you coming?" I asked her.
"No, I think I'll step out for some fresh air. You two go on. I'll be back in a few minutes."
Zara was pulling my hand now.
"Come on, Daddy. I'm hungry."
Forced to return to the crowd, even though I desperately wanted to follow Natalie instead. Where could she be going? Chapter 7. Natalie. The party was beautiful, and I couldn't be happier for my brother. The restaurant was gorgeous, the party decorations beautiful, and the food amazing, as expected. Everything was perfect, except my mood. As I slipped off to the beach, the soothing breeze over the water helped steady my mind. I stood in front of the waves for a long time, watching the ocean break over the shore and taking slow, deep breaths. For a time, I emptied my thoughts and took in the quiet hush of the waves. Even at night, with the light from the party showing softly along the beach, I could not deny this beauty. There were still many things to be thankful for. Letting my mind drift, I thought, maybe I should do some traveling while I had the chance. What if I got an offer across the country, or even in another country? Would I be willing to move? Anywhere without Harry and Helena would be better. I didn't miss my relationship with Harry. We never were much of a couple. All we did was talk about work. I should have seen the signs that we were going nowhere and ended it a lot sooner. I could probably fight the firing. There was likely a clause in my contract that required a process before being let go, but I didn't want to go back to D News now. As far as I was concerned, those two were perfect for each other. A few days ago, I'd seen Harry and Helena at the local market, holding hands together like some newly wedded couple. It suddenly made sense how she got my job so quickly. Not ready to show my face and have her gloat in front of me, I had waited behind a stall until they walked past. Helena was laughing in her high-pitched voice, and she leaned on him like he was her world.
"Oh, Harry, you're so funny."
Her fake flirtations made me want to gag. My thoughts drifted to Sebastian, even though I didn't want them to. It was hard seeing him tonight, embarrassed by how I'd behaved the day I got fired. Now I felt pathetic around him. I was a jobless, washed-up TV host, while he was the media's golden boy. But it was more than that. A part of me just wished that our relationship could be different, that we could be friends. When I had been at my lowest, Sebastian had been there for me. Just the thought of his hug still gave me goosebumps. I shook away the thought. I tried hard not to think about Sebastian romantically. But I had to admit, when I'd seen him escorting Jane as his date, I felt a pang, something like jealousy. Watching as the waves crashed, coming closer to where I stood, I felt like wading in the water. Just as I took a step forward, I heard someone cough behind me. That brought me out of my reverie. I turned, startled to see Sebastian standing a few feet away. He was the last person I expected to see. I had left to be alone. He knew I was out here, and he followed me anyway. Why? "Enjoying the waves?" he asked as his usual smile danced on his lips. My first response was to tell him to go away, but it was so peaceful on the beach that I didn't want to break the mood. "More than I have in a long time. Do you care to join me for a walk?" I asked. I could see my invitation startled him. It was obvious he had expected a rude response from me, and I realized that made me sad. He moved closer and flashed his megawatt smile. "I'd like that." For a while, we walked along the beach without saying a word. I recognized the familiar scent of his cologne, and suddenly I felt the desire to move closer to him. I regretted my invitation. I shouldn't be this close to him when he looked and smelled so good. How much longer could I hide my feelings for him without letting it show? "I meant to tell you earlier that you look beautiful in that dress," he stated, breaking the silence. "Thank you," I replied. His words made me feel all mushy. I had purposely picked this dress and paid considerable attention to my appearance tonight because of him. I was glad it worked. "You look handsome tonight, and Zara looks beautiful. Is she having fun at the party?" "Yes, she is now, thanks to you," he said. He smiled and chuckled lightly at the confused look on my face. "I overheard your conversation with Zara about Jane." "Oh, you eavesdropped, you mean?" I teased, and noticed a handsome blush form on his cheeks. "Yes, well, sorry about that." "Just teasing you. I'm glad you heard. I hope you don't mind that I tried to give her some advice. She appeared sad, and I wanted to help her." "I'm glad you talked to her. What you said was perfect, and now she's back to her old self." "Well, that's good," I said, trying not to show how giddy I was about the compliment he just gave me. "There's one thing I want to clarify, though. I'm not dating Jane. She's just a friend. She runs a bakery, and because of her culinary background, she was excited to check out Augustine's restaurant, so I offered to bring her." "You don't have to explain yourself to me," I said, though I couldn't help feeling relieved that there was nothing serious going on. "How is your search for a job coming?" he asked. I wondered if he would ask me about coming to work for him. I'm sure I'd given him a different impression, but the fact was I didn't hate Zenkan. In fact, I'd fantasized about working there many times. It was only because Sebastian was the owner that I had a problem with the idea. I didn't know if I could find a balance between my attraction to him and the way he infuriated me. He poked me. "Are you going to answer?" "What?" I blurted out, laughing a bit too nervously. Looking up at him, I thought I glimpsed a hint of attraction in his eyes, but it changed to amusement, which made me think he was laughing at me again. I looked away and sighed. "I'm sorry, you don't have to answer if you don't want to," he smiled. "I heard from Augustine that you received a potential offer. That's good news," he stated. "So you two talk about me?" I asked with raised brows. "Sometimes. He's your brother, and he worries about you," he replied with a laugh, raising his hands in mock surrender. I thought he looked adorable. I stopped and dusted the sand off my feet for a distraction. "I went a few days ago to accept the offer, but it turned out the place wasn't a good fit for me." "Which place was that?" he asked. "Does it matter?" "No, I guess it doesn't," he replied, and for a while he remained thoughtful. I looked ahead, wondering what he was thinking. I noticed we had walked further than I had planned, so we turned to head back. After a minute, he broke the silence. "Your brother asked if I would offer you a job," Sebastian said. "He did? I told him not to. Sorry about that." As if I didn't have enough to be embarrassed about. "I told him I would if you were the one asking."
Ha. Well, no wonder he never told me. He knows there's no way I'd ever ask you to give me a job. I let out a laugh, but I stopped short, seeing the frown on Sebastian's face.
Why not? He asked. Why won't you let me help you?
I don't want your pity, Sebastian.
Sebastian let out a frustrated groan. Not pity, Princess. You're one of the most talented TV hosts I've ever seen. It would be as much a benefit to me as it would to you if you worked for Zencan. I glared at him for calling me princess again, but my expression softened as I thought more about what he was saying. He thought I was talented? He'd never said that before. So, are you offering me a job? I asked. Are you asking for one? He countered. I stopped walking and faced him with my arms crossed. He laughed and shook his head. Fine, all right. Yes, I just had an idea for a show that I think you'd be perfect for.
What's the idea? I asked, intrigued.
No, that's not how this works, Princess. I just offered you a job, and now you have to decide whether you want to work for me or not. Only then will I tell you the idea.
I desperately wanted to accept his offer on the spot, but my pride, and that he'd called me princess for a second time, helped me hold my tongue.
Think it over. It was beautiful talking with you, Natalie. See you back at the party, he stated, and like that, he was gone. I was back in the initial spot where he'd found me. It was just me now, with folded arms, the waves crashing, my heart racing, and my thoughts begging me to accept his offer. Could I find the courage to work for Sebastian? Chapter 8. Sebastian. As I walked back to the party, I wondered why she was so hard to convince. I knew we would be a great fit. I looked back at the beach, and she was still standing in the same spot, her hair shifting in the wind in sync with the waves. However, this was the first time we had talked so long without bickering, and I wished it lasted longer. But I needed to return to the party before Zara missed me, and I thought Natalie needed more time to consider my offer. Just as I thought, Zara was looking nervously around, and Lisa was assuring her I had not left her behind.
"Where did you go, Daddy?"
she asked, teary-eyed. "I needed to talk to Natalie about something," I replied, giving her a kiss on the cheek. I looked up to see Lisa staring at me. I could see the wheels in her mind turning, wondering what Natalie and I could have been discussing. I put Zara in my lap to comfort her, just as Natalie walked in with her usual look of defiance. She glanced at me, and I could have sworn she smiled just before turning to face Lisa, who was ready with 1,000,001 questions. "Where's Jane?" I asked Zara.
"She said she wants to talk with Uncle Augustine later, but she left to check out the kitchen now."
Just then, Augustine called me up to help wind down the party. I set Zara in her own chair and looked down at her to see she was smiling at me like she had the best dad in the world, and that warmed my soul. I thanked our host for letting us celebrate with him. I raved about the sumptuous dinner provided and encouraged all the guests to spread the word about Augustine's authentic cuisine. Next was the closing prayer. Last was a reminder for all to come back soon and wishes for a safe drive home. Augustine hugged me warmly as the crowd clapped. It was an emotional moment for both of us. My mind traveled to all the planning and deliberation over the years to get to this moment. Augustine was a passionate man who did so much for others. It was a blessing to be here to see him accomplish his dream. "Pictures! Let's take pictures!" his mom stated, moving closer to us. As we smiled for the camera, I looked at Natalie, whose grin was wider than ever. I felt the air knocked out of me. When she smiled like that, she was breathtaking. I looked ahead just in time before an awkward picture could be taken of me staring at Natalie while everyone else was smiling at the camera. More joined our group for photos. After that, I waited behind to thank Mrs. Coker for the love, care, and warmth she had shown Zara and me all these years. I looked up to see Natalie staring at me. Our eyes met, but she looked away, immediately engaging Lisa in a conversation. As I walked out with Zara and Jane, I wondered what Natalie was thinking. Just as I was about to get in the car, Augustine called out to me. "Thank you so much, man," he gushed, and we shook hands, both grinning ear to ear. After dropping off Jane, I drove home, my mind circling with thoughts of Natalie. When we arrived home, the nanny met us at the door. She asked if we needed dinner, but we shook our heads simultaneously, still full from Augustine's celebration. She wished us a good night and left for her room. I switched on the lights and headed for my bedroom. Zara settled to watch TV in her room, too wired to go to bed yet. When I came out after showering, Zara was asleep and snoring on her floor. I smiled and lifted her off the floor with ease, tucking her in bed. I gave her a kiss on the head and closed the door quietly. I confirmed the doors were all securely locked before returning to my room. My phone was ringing when I got there. I smiled when I saw the caller's name. "Natalie!" I called out brightly, and she chuckled. "You sound excited." "I'm wondering why you called. To what do I owe the honor?" "A perfect spot for me and Zenkan," she replied. Stunned, I asked, "Are you playing a prank on me? It's not funny if you are." "I'm done with pranks. I'm accepting your job offer," she replied. I tried to suppress my excitement in the quiet house. "Hello? Are you still there?" she asked, after not hearing my voice for a while. "I'm here, Natalie." "Oh, for a moment I thought you were gone," she replied with a sigh of relief. "Gone where?" I asked, not wanting to miss this moment. "I don't know. You could have passed out from shock or something," she responded. I laughed. "Almost." Curious, I asked, "What made you decide to say yes?" "I want to know what your idea is, of course. The curiosity is killing me." "That and other things." "What other things?" I asked, while placing my pillow under my head in a more comfortable position. "I've been thinking of expanding my job search out of town. Augustine's party made me realize this little town might have something worth staying for," she replied. I couldn't help but think, thank God she's not leaving. It would have broken my heart. "What were you doing before I called?" Natalie asked. "I just tucked Zara in her bed." "You're a great dad. She's lucky to have you." "She would be luckier if she had a mother," I blurted out, without thinking, and Natalie was silent. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that," I quickly explained, before she got the idea I was hitting on her. "It's all right. I'm a relationship expert, remember? Yes, 2 parents would be ideal, but she's still lucky," she responded, and that immediately put me at ease. "Would you be willing to give me some relationship tips?" I asked. She laughed out loud. "I will, when you tell me more about the woman you're interested in." "What if I say it's you?" I asked myself. Aloud, I responded, "All right, I'll hold you to your word. I'm glad you're accepting the job, princess." "I am too, Sebastian," she replied with a yawn. "But I have one condition." "What's that?" I asked. "If you call me princess one more time, I'll quit." I laughed. "Deal. I'll expect you tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp to go over the details." "Thank you, Sebastian. Have a good night," she said, her voice genuine and sweet, and then she hung up. Things were looking up for Zenkan, and maybe me too. Chapter 9. Natalie. The next morning, I shocked my mom when she saw me dressed and ready for work. I kissed her quickly on the cheek and almost bolted out the door when she asked, "Where are you going, darling?" "Zenkan," I replied, eager to escape. "You're doing the right thing. Sebastian is a good fit," she said. For a moment, I wondered if she was referring to something else. "Thanks, Mom. Bye," I responded and shut the door. I didn't want to be late on the first day. I arrived to a warm welcome. Several employees were at the door, and Sebastian was right in front, clapping with everyone else. It looked like news was getting around fast, and his kindness touched me. "Thank you," I whispered as he moved close to give me a handshake, then leaned close to my ear. "You are exactly 3 minutes late." "Will you forgive me, just this once?" I asked, showing him the puppy dog eyes. He smiled in response. Douglas will show you around, and after that, meet me in my office, he stated, then waved. Thank you, everyone. Back to work. I watched him as he walked out with the command of a leader. His blue retro suit fit him very well indeed, and he looked breathtaking. So much so that it took me a moment to refocus. Miss Coker? I heard a cheery voice behind me. Hi, I'm Douglas. I'll give you the tour. Douglas was full of smiles and cheer. So much so, I wondered if he was a fan of my previous show. As we started the tour, and he noted the points of interest, break room, bathrooms, studios, offices, etc., my guess turned out to be correct. He eventually told me how much he admired my show. I was so sad when you left D News. We listen to you every Saturday, my wife and I. Implementing your tips improved our relationship, I can tell you. I'm so glad you're working at Zencan now. My wife will be so happy when she finds out. Does she work here too? I asked. Yes, she works in the HR department, he replied excitedly, before pointing at a figure coming towards us. Looks like she found out. There she is. Before I had time to articulate anything, she pounced. Holy heavens, Miss Coker! The Love Diva's here! She screamed, and I wondered a little about these two. I'm stoked you're here and can't wait to work with you. I don't know if Doug told you, but listening to your show strengthened our relationship. We've never been so happy. Thank you. I've got to get back to work, but come see me. HR on the second floor, when you're ready to do the paperwork. Welcome. She gave me another quick hug, waved, and rushed off. Douglas was smiling and said, Ain't she a peach? I couldn't have said it better myself, I told him, smiling back, feeling like I'd just been hit by a whirlwind. When we finally arrived back at Sebastian's office, I was utterly exhausted. It truly was an enormous complex. Thank you, Douglas. You can leave, Sebastian stated, and the faithful man nodded and made his way out. As soon as the door shut, he asked, Did you enjoy your tour? This place is bigger than I expected, I replied. What do you think of Zencan? He asked, fiddling with his ballpoint pen. Are you fishing for compliments? I asked with raised brows. Not really, but I won't mind if you do so, he replied. Are you going to tell me your idea for my show now? Yes, you gave me the inspiration for it last night while you were talking to Zara. I've always thought you gave brilliant advice to couples, but I think that's too limiting for you. I think you should have a show where you give advice for all kinds of relationships. I love it! Thank you, Sebastian, I said. You're welcome, Natalie. We need to sit down with your team and decide how we want to run the show. Come up with a name to start, so we can get the advertising going. Can we work on it now? I asked. I thought Sebastian's idea was wonderful, and my mind was already racing with ideas. Don't you even want to know how much it pays? I suppose I should have asked that before accepting the offer. But to tell the truth, I'm going stir crazy without my work. But now that you've mentioned it, how much? The figure Sebastian gave me was almost twice the amount I was making at D News. Trying not to show my shock, I said, That seems sufficient. But I was pretty sure he could tell it impressed me. You won't be alone for the first week. I want you to have time to adjust our systems and protocols. A studio is a studio. What else do I need to know? Our environment here is different. It's just standard procedure for anyone new to the company. To help make the transition easier for everyone, they shadow another for the first week. I'm not just anyone, I retorted. But you are an employee. Oh, I nodded, slightly angry. So what happens now? You need a co-host for the first week. We can reassess as we go along. I don't need one. I can handle hosting the show myself. If there are any technical issues, you just need to show me once. I'm a fast learner. I can't adjust the protocols just for you. Didn't you say how talented you think I am? I replied to Sebastian. He nodded helplessly. Of course, you're special, but...
No buts. I'm hosting my show alone, or I'm not doing it, I retorted.
Fine, but if anything happens, you'll take personal responsibility for it, he threatened, and I huffed. This wasn't the best start to our working relationship, but at least I'd won the argument. Sebastian called his secretary in and said, "Show Miss Coger her office, please." She nodded, and I followed her out of the room. After working for 2 weeks with my production team and the marketing department, we had the show ready to go live. Nervous, wired, and with nothing to do until the 6 p.m. show, I asked Dave, one of my producers, if he wanted to go get lunch. I wanted to run a few things by him before the show. When we got back from lunch, Sebastian was livid with rage. He called me into his office and slammed the door closed behind me. "I can't believe you disappear on the first day of your show."
"It's not time for my show yet. I went out with Dave to get some lunch. What's the problem?"
"Yes, I know you went with Dave."
Sebastian seemed to fumble for his words.
"You should have informed me before leaving. You both should have."
"What? I told the other producers and the station manager before I left," I said, thoroughly confused by how upset he was.
"Fine. Don't do that again. I should know about all your movements as long as you're working with this company," he stated in a tone of finality.
"Fine!" I yelled back and walked out of his office before he could say anything else. For the rest of the day, I stayed out of Sebastian's way until it was time for my show. I entered the studio, unusually nervous. This first show needed to go well, so the pressure was on. Taking several deep breaths, I told myself to act like this was just another show. No big deal. Douglas had shown me the reports they had back from the early advertising.
"Hi, Miss Coger. I just wanted to show you the response we received from the ads. It looks like your fans have missed you."
He gave me that almost manic smile of his. Glad my fans had missed me. I hoped the new show would meet their expectations. No, not just meet, exceed. Pausing for a moment in my pacing, I closed my eyes, took a breath, and opened them again. Dave asked me if he should go ahead. I nodded, and the lights were on me for the first time in months. I hadn't realized how much I missed my job until now. After introducing myself in my usual unique style, I thanked the viewers, and suddenly my nerves were gone. I was home. I didn't know why Douglas and the studio manager were so excited and laughing when the show was over. Then my jaw went slack when I saw the results. Zencan topped their ratings again. My show was a success. Elated by the results, the entire crew was excited and cheering. I saw Sebastian hurrying towards the studio.
"Natalie, you did great!"
Even he sounded elated as he picked me up and spun me around. "Thank you for giving me the chance to show what I can do," I responded, a bit out of breath, surprised by his reaction as he put me down. Still put off by our earlier argument, I pushed away from him, not looking back to gauge his expression. Happy about the show's success, but worried about my future at a studio where the owner was so unpredictable. I grabbed my things and rushed out of the office. What had I gotten myself into this time? Chapter 10. Sebastian.
I was a jerk. I knew it. My poor attitude almost lost the company our new top-rated show. Worse, it may have damaged the relationship I had been trying to develop with Natalie. When I'd heard that she was having lunch with Dave, jealousy blinded me. I didn't even consider the possibility that they were discussing work. I watched her walk away, hoping she would be back at work tomorrow. Walking back into my office, my thoughts centered on how I might salvage the situation. Suddenly, I had it. "Augustine," I said when he answered the phone. "I need your help." "Why? What did you do? I saw the show tonight. It looks like a hit." "Yes, most likely. If our show host returns, that is. I was an idiot. We got into an argument before the show, and you know your sister. She's still pissed at me. Rightfully so, but I need to work on damage control. Can you help me out? Sure, but what do you want from me? Augustine didn't hesitate. Telling him what I had planned, he laughed and said, That just might do it. The next day, I was on my best behavior. Before she arrived, I had flowers sitting on her office desk with a note from me. I only hoped she wouldn't think it was insincere. While working, I received a text from Natalie. Need to take care of some business. I'll be in at least 2 hours before the show, just so you know. Thank you. See you when you get in, I replied back. While I was glad she texted me beforehand, I didn't know if it meant she had forgiven me, or she was merely doing what I told her to. I asked Douglas to watch her office and let me know when she walked in. I couldn't focus on my paperwork, try as I might. Douglas texted me a few hours later. She's here. Thanks, I replied. I gave her about 10 minutes to settle down, and then I walked in, holding yet another bouquet. She looked shocked to see me. I almost didn't know it was my office. To what do I owe this welcome? Do I get the celebrity treatment for the entire week? She asked. No, this is my apology. I'm so sorry about the way I acted before, Natalie. You are a professional, and I need to treat you like one. I let the stress of the first show get to me. I should have left my apology at that, but I couldn't help myself. And when I heard you went out to lunch with Dave, I thought maybe something was going on between you two. She laughed. What? No way! I learned my lesson with Harry Deering. No workplace romances for me. Right, well, again, I'm sorry, I stated sincerely. To my surprise, she moved close and shook my hand. You're forgiven, she said, and paused, looking up at me, her face suddenly changing. But if you try it again, she threatened. I cross my heart, it won't happen again, I replied, holding onto her hand. Thank you for the flowers. I didn't know the president of Zencan could be so thoughtful. She smiled at me, and I wish she hadn't just sworn off workplace romances. Now, can I get back to work? I'm making the finishing touches on my script, she said, and I left her to do what she does best. Again, with the next show, our ratings skyrocketed. I waited outside the studio until she came out. Natalie! Will you always be outside after every show? She asked, lifting one eyebrow. Perhaps I should make it a habit. I came to celebrate with you, I replied, moving closer. Will you do me the honor of having dinner with me at the end of each week? I asked. Mr. President, that is an outrageous request, and outside the boundaries of official conduct, she said with a smile. No, it's completely innocent. We can take the time to review how your show is going. Sometimes the best ideas happen outside the office, I responded. She laughed. Fine, sounds like a plan. Did you bring your car? I asked. Yes, I did. Just a moment, I'll grab my things. I'll wait, I told her, excited that we were finally agreeing on something. That night, we arrived at Augustine's restaurant. True to his word, he had everything ready. He had a private table reserved with a bowl of cheese puffs in the middle. When Natalie saw the bowl, she doubled over laughing. With tears streaming down her face, I finally got her to sit down. You're making a scene, Natalie, I said, but I was laughing too, so she knew I was kidding. You remembered? She asked, still trying to get her laughter under control. Of course I remembered. All those times Augustine asked us to try one of his new recipes. 9 times out of 10, you took one bite, gave him a thumbs up or down, grabbed your cheese puffs, and headed off to your room. Well, there was that 10th time, when I took a bowl of whatever he made to my room instead of my cheese puffs. Yes, and that's when he said he knew he had to keep her. And we both laughed at that. Augustine stopped by to see if Natalie was good with her cheese puffs, or if she actually wanted to order some real food from his restaurant. We both picked our favorites and placed our order. We were more relaxed than we had been that night when we walked on the beach. As the night progressed, I discovered more about Natalie's personality that I'd never known before. Thank you for an interesting dinner, Mr. President. Oh, now I sound like Marilyn. She chuckled at her own joke as we fell into step beside each other on our way to her car. Please don't be formal. I'm Sebastian. Just Sebastian, I reminded her, hoping she would take me seriously on that.
Interesting. Wasn't it just yesterday that you reminded me I worked for you? She said, and I coughed.
I'm not exactly sure where that came from. I guess it was just my time to be a jerk. Again, I'm sorry, I said, opening her car door. She nodded, assessing me briefly before sliding in. I think you have apologized enough for that. Why don't we just drop it? Thanks for a wonderful dinner. She smiled up at me. Have a beautiful night, Natalie, I replied, and closed the door after her.
Take care, Sebastian. See you later.
I watched as she drove away, then I walked to my car and drove home. Natalie's beautiful face etched in my memory. The following week passed by too slowly. Natalie's show continued to be a success, but more often than not, my thoughts looked forward to the dinner we agreed to share every Friday. Finally, Friday came. I waited in my office to see if she'd changed her mind about our deal. Not wanting to pressure her, I let her come to me. After her show ended, I heard a knock on my door, and I admit it slightly surprised me when she walked in and asked with the familiar lifting of her brow, "No dinner tonight?" I smiled and told her to give me a few minutes. Then we walked outside chatting and laughing about something she had said on the show, and the couples that called in. From that day forward, just as I promised, every Friday I met her outside the studio when her show was over. Not only did we have dinner every Friday, but I also passed by her office more often throughout the week. I tried to make sure I had something related to work to discuss or ask her about, but my reasons were always just excuses to see her. It didn't take long for everyone else to notice that we spent a lot of time together. It didn't bother me, though. I enjoyed every minute. I only hope Natalie did, too. One of the few days she came to work in the early morning, I went down to her office to greet her. "Good morning, love diva," I said as I entered her office.
"Do you need some advice?"
she asked, a smile dancing on her lips. "I have a friend who is a widower and has a daughter," I began. "Okay," she nodded. "He is looking for a lady to settle down with. What do you think he should do?" I asked, repeatedly tapping my fingers on the table.
"He should attach a cardboard sign to his chest that states, 'I am looking for a wife,'" she replied nonchalantly.
"Is that the advice you would give your president?" I asked.
"I wonder why my president is in my office when he has a meeting in 30 minutes.
She rolled her eyes, laughing. "You know, you're just no fun anymore." I sulked, and she threw a pillow from the chair next to her across at me. I bolted out the door laughing, but I knew I was in deep. I was falling hard for Natalie Coker. Chapter 11. Natalie. As the days and weeks rolled by, I realized I was becoming more comfortable at Zenkan. I looked forward to my shows and the fans. So many people listened to my advice. I felt I was actually making a difference. The feedback was mostly positive. Even the haters offered mostly constructive criticism instead of random complaints. But the most interesting part quickly became the dinners with Sebastian. I discovered we enjoyed each other's company, and most nights we lost all track of the time. "We should have been friends all along, don't you think so? Now that we know each other better?" he asked one night, a few months later. With a nod of affirmation, I leisurely savored my drink while shuffling my feet. I knew it was coming. He would want to know what I held against him all those years. "I enjoy our new friendship, Natalie," he said to me. I smiled in response, lifting my glass as he mirrored my action. "Cheers to more years of friendship," I stated, and our glasses clinked. "What did you hold against me all those years? What did I do?" he finally asked. I glanced up at him. His facial expression portrayed anticipation. I laughed slightly and opted for a half-truth. "Everyone thought so highly of you, and I didn't see whatever they saw. I thought you could be cold and arrogant." It annoyed me to no end when you criticized my shows. And you know how you always gave me a hard time about my relationships." His forehead creased. "You knew I was teasing when I'd mention your love life, didn't you?" "I always thought you were great at what you did. I just saw ways the shows could be even better." I rolled my eyes. "You always seemed to think you knew what was best, even when your advice was a total load of manure." He laughed out loud at that. "Are you serious?" I took another bite of my meal and chewed. "You had this air of pride that screamed, 'I know all things,' and made me feel like I was just an amateur," I replied. "I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I was jealous that you worked for D News and not here. So what do you think of me now, Natalie?" he asked, suddenly looking serious. I glanced up at him, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. There was a momentary softness to his demeanor, as though what I thought really mattered. I blinked and searched for words to say. "You are a boss who values the well-being of your employees." "Is that all there is to it?" he asked in a tone that conveyed he wanted me to say more. "I think you're an engaging person to hang out with," I supplied. "That is more comforting than your earlier response," he replied, and I laughed. "Sebastian, the more time we spend together, the more I realized how little I knew you before," I concluded. He nodded, appearing to contemplate my answer. Since he was less talkative after that, we finished dinner and went our separate ways. That Sunday, when Mom returned home and Augustine retired to his restaurant after church, I dropped in at Lisa's place for some girl talk. I gave her the juicy details of my first few months working at Zencan, including the dinners I had with Sebastian and the questions he'd posed 2 nights before. Lisa walked across the room and handed me a glass. Then, as usual, flung herself on the couch across from where I sat. "I don't know why the both of you are blind to the truth. It's glaringly obvious. You like each other. Can't you see it?" "I don't think so. I don't see it that way at all," I responded, not eager to continue the conversation. "So, tell me the truth. You feel something for him, right?" Lisa questioned, not swayed by my attempt to appear disinterested. "I'm not sure what I feel. It's changed since we started hanging out a lot. He's a friend," I hedged. "Don't fool yourself, Natalie. It's high time for you to be in a relationship. And Sebastian is a great guy. What are you waiting for?" "What, are you my mother now?" "That's what she keeps telling me. We work together. It would be impossible. I'm not letting what happened with Harry happen again," I said. "But you never loved Harry." "I think you have deep feelings for Sebastian. You may even love him. Or could if you gave yourself the chance. Are you going to let work destroy your chance at true love?" Lisa asked. If I were to consider a relationship with Sebastian, and that's a big if, what if he only likes me as a friend? If I assume it might be more, and it's not, it could ruin our friendship. We have to work together. Now that we're on good terms, I couldn't bear to be on bad terms again. I sighed, setting my glass on the table. Crossing my legs as I leaned back, I continued matter-of-fact. It's not proper for us to mix business with pleasure. There's too much at stake. "Shut up, Miss Rules of Life," Lisa countered. "Just last week, you advised a couple to go for the relationship, despite working together. Why can't you do the same for yourself, Natalie?" "That was different, Lisa." "It's not different. It's the same," she countered again. "They were co-workers. Sebastian is my boss," I replied, not willing to back down. "How many employees have dinners with their bosses every Friday? Tell me, Natalie." "How would I know? Perhaps lots. It's a good way to talk about work. It's been an excellent opportunity for us to get to know each other so we can work better together. Nothing more." "Natalie, I have one more question for you. Why weren't you and Sebastian friends before?" This was the moment of truth. Should I or should I not? Was it time to admit to myself the feelings I have for him? "Natalie!" Lisa brought me out of my reverie. I like Sebastian, I revealed. She flashed a smile of triumph. I ignored her gloating and continued. I've liked him for a long time, but he was happily married when we first met. Then his wife died, and I tried to befriend him, but he blew me off. I know he was grieving, but I wanted to be his friend and help, and I wasn't good enough. After Clara, I don't know that anyone could be good enough for him. They had the kind of relationship everyone dreams of. A fairy tale, once-in-a-lifetime love. I can't compete with that. Natalie, you can't blame him for being distant. You know he must have been in a state of depression then. Yes, I know he was then, and a lot of time has passed now, but I've locked down these feelings for so long. I'm not sure I can let go. That earlier rejection has been a big part of why I've always been so rude to him. My defense mechanism. And for so long, it seemed like all he wanted to do was aggravate me. Lisa shook her head. What about now? Time has passed, and you both have grown over the years. Haven't you noticed you are the only employee he takes to dinner? I can't handle another rejection so soon after losing my job. It's been so wonderful building a friendship with Sebastian after all these tense years. Let me just enjoy the peace we have. It's funny how you can counsel others to follow their hearts, but when it comes to your heart, you just can't do it. Lisa sighed, looking up at the ceiling in resignation. What do you expect me to do, Lisa? Jump on him and confess my feelings? That's absurd. No, I never said that. Be open to whatever he might suggest. I have a strong feeling about this, Natalie. Sebastian likes you. You two are meant to be together. As I lay on my bed that night, I kept replaying my conversation with Lisa, reviewing scenes with Sebastian in my head to see if I had missed something that might suggest he had feelings for me. The only behavior in question was the regular dinners, and maybe his frequent visits to my office. But was he interested in me, or just in finally making peace with his best friend's sister? Would making peace and being friends with Sebastian be enough for me? Chapter 12. Sebastian. That Monday, I went to work full of smiles, looking forward to seeing Natalie. I found it easier to accept my intense feelings for her, but I was still afraid. Afraid that she didn't feel the same, or that she would reject me. She'd made it clear she didn't want to start a romance with anyone she worked with. For a long time after Clara's death, I couldn't imagine finding a relationship like the one we had. It was so easy loving her. We always seemed to understand each other so well that I couldn't recall even one argument. It took me years to realize that there would never be another Clara. Which meant, of course, I would never have another relationship like ours. That didn't mean I couldn't find another wonderful woman and build a different, yet still special relationship. I was pretty sure everyone except Natalie knew I had feelings for her. I crossed over to my chair and dismissed Donald after going over the day's instructions. Then I called Augustine to ask if he was free for a chat. He readily agreed, so I grabbed my jacket and car keys and headed for the elevator. Entering Augustine's restaurant, I saw him laughing with an employee. As soon as he saw me, he excused himself and came over to clasp my hand in a firm handshake. "What's up, man? You sounded so desperate on the phone. How can I help?" he asked, signaling towards a secluded area where we could have a private conversation. "It's Natalie," I revealed once we sat down. "My sister? Did you have another fight? I thought you two had worked all that out." "Yes, we are getting along much better now. Actually, that's the problem. What would you say if I told you I've fallen in love with your sister?" I blurted out. He chuckled. "I always thought you two would make a great couple. Why do you think I kept creating opportunities for the two of you to be together? I could tell you liked her, even when you couldn't admit it to yourself. And underneath all my sister's attitudes, I think she likes you too." I smiled at his response. "Is that what you're worried about? You have my blessings, man." He clapped me on the back. "Thanks, I appreciate that. And it makes me feel better knowing you approve. I know how I feel about her, but I can't tell what she feels about me. I believe our relationship could be so much more, but I don't want to ruin what we've built if I'm wrong. You can't know if you don't try. What have you been doing to get you where you are now? Augustine asked. We go out to dinner every Friday night after her show. Dear Lord, little wonder she comes home so late Friday nights. I thought she was working hard on her show. I didn't know she was working on you, Augustine commented, and I laughed. Why don't you do something different? Take her home for dinner. Just you, her, and Zara. It would be good for Zara to get to know her better if you're looking at this long term. And I think it will show Natalie what your intentions are, he advised. I left his restaurant feeling grateful. I called the nanny and put the plan into motion. The following Friday, I sent Natalie a text message to meet me outside. It surprised her when I suggested dinner at my place. She lifted her eyes in curiosity. Is there any reason for the location change? Zara has been asking about you, and I thought it might be nice to have a more private dinner tonight. I smiled. She agreed to let me drive her to my house, so that gave me another opportunity to play the gentleman by opening her door. She laughed slightly and slid in. As we drove, soft music played in the background, and we discussed the expansion I had planned for Zenkan. Already beginning to see her as part of my world, I revealed some of my plans for the company and asked her opinion. Wow, you have some great ideas there, Sebastian. You are unstoppable. Same to you. Together we will make a great team, I replied, without thinking. She glanced in my direction. A great team? I'm just an employee of Zenkan, remember? She responded, lifting her brows. You're more than just an employee. I hope you know that. What if I get a better opportunity or want to start my own company? She asked. You know I won't, likely can't anyway, stop you from doing whatever you want to do. Just promise me, before you make any job changes, you will come to me so we can discuss them first. That's all I ask, I pleaded, and she laughed. We finally arrived at my house. As we walked across the driveway, she commented, I never knew your place was so big. Augustine said nothing about this. I like it, but isn't it big for just the two of you? Well, technically, there are 3 of us living here full-time. I have a live-in nanny for Zara. She also does light cooking and cleaning. But I have a housekeeper who comes in during the day to do most of the cleaning. I like my privacy, and yet we still have room to host family, friends, or clients when I choose. When we came in, Zara was in front of the TV, watching cartoons in the living room. Dad! Natalie! She exclaimed, and ran to me for a hug and then hugged Natalie. How was school today? I asked. Fine, Zara answered. But I could tell she was more interested in talking to Natalie than to me. Sure enough, Zara hounded Natalie with questions about her new show and what it was like to be on TV. Natalie answered all of Zara's questions, smiling and laughing as if she was truly enjoying herself. It meant so much to me that Zara liked Natalie. No one could replace Clara, but I could see that Natalie would make an exceptional mother one day. Dinner was wonderful. It felt so natural having Natalie sitting with Zara and me at our table. We talked and laughed like a family, and with each passing minute, I knew that was what I wanted us to be. I wasn't sure if Natalie was ready, though. I wasn't even sure what her feelings were for me. All I knew was that soon I would have to tell her how I felt. You know what? Zara suddenly piped up. She was looking from Natalie to me with a curious look in her eyes. Then her face broke out into a wide smile, and she said to Natalie, I didn't like it when Daddy was dating Jane, but I'm glad he's dating you. I think you'd be a good stepmom. Both Natalie and I froze. I watched Natalie as she put down her fork and tried to give Zara a smile, but her face was pale and her lips tense. Oh, sweetie, your father and I aren't dating. We're just friends. But you go on dates all the time, Zara pointed out. Those are for work, Natalie explained. Are you working tonight? Zara asked. It doesn't feel like work. Part of me wanted to laugh, leave it to a child to see how things were. Whether she would admit it or not, our dinners together had stopped being about work a long time ago. "Let's talk about something else, Zara," I said, trying to spare Natalie any further embarrassment.
"But you like her, don't you, Daddy?"
"Yes, Zara, I like Natalie a lot," I said. But when I looked over at Natalie, I wondered if I'd said the right thing. She was looking even more uncomfortable.
"Then you're dating,"
Zara declared, looking satisfied with herself. "Zara, that's enough. Let's talk about something else."
"But—"
Zara began, but I gave her a stern look and she didn't continue. The rest of the dinner was quiet. Any more conversation we had was stilted and unnatural. When we were all finished, I expected we'd hang out in the living room, but Natalie said she was tired and asked for a ride home. As we drove to her house, she didn't say a word, but after a while I couldn't stand the silence anymore. "I'm sorry about what Zara said. I hope it didn't make you uncomfortable."
"Oh, I know she didn't mean anything by it. And I can't blame her for getting the wrong idea. I'm glad she said what she said."
"Really?" I said, thinking perhaps she was about to admit she wanted to be with me.
"I've been thinking for a while that our dinners weren't a good idea."
And my hopes were dashed.
"I don't want to go through people gossiping about me having an inappropriate relationship with my boss again."
Just then we pulled up to her house. I parked the car and turned to face her. It was time she knew the truth. "Natalie, I wasn't lying when I said I liked you. In fact, the way I feel about you is more than that, and unless I'm totally wrong, I think you feel the same way about me." I watched as Natalie fidgeted with her hands, avoiding eye contact with me.
"But you're my boss, Sebastian. It wouldn't work, and I have my career to think about.
We shouldn't even be talking about this. Who cares what other people think or want to gossip about? Don't you think love is more important than work?" Her eyes shot to mine.
"Love?"
she said. "Yes, Natalie, love."
"Sebastian, I can't talk about this right now. Our dinners together have been great, but I think they need to end."
She fumbled to open the car door. Once she stepped out of the vehicle, she popped her head back in and said, "Thanks for the ride. I'll see you at work." Before I could say another word, she ran to her house. I fought the urge to race after her. She needed time, I told myself, trying not to lose hope. But I felt like my heart was breaking as I drove home. Chapter 13. Natalie. As soon as I entered my room, I took a quick look out the window. Sebastian was just pulling away in his car. Feeling the need for some sisterly advice, I reached for the phone to call Lisa. However, before I could dial her number, my mother knocked on my door and entered the room. "Natalie, that was Sebastian? Is he not coming in?" she asked, a mischievous glimmer in her eyes. "What are you trying to suggest, Mom?" I inquired, even though I already knew where this conversation was going. "You both are now on speaking terms?" she asked again, lifting one eyebrow. Well, now I knew where I got that expression from. "Yes, we are friends now, Mother," I replied casually, walking to the mirror to inspect my face. She patted my bed with her palm and straightened the sheets. "Sebastian is a good man. Men like him are rare. Don't let him slip out of your fingers." "I'm curious. Why do you think he's the right person for me, Mom?" "I've known Sebastian for years. Listen to my advice for once without arguing, Natalie. He's a good man. Much better than those other guys you dated. You two would be good together." "All right, I've heard, Mom. Please, can I get ready for bed now?" "Do you promise to give my suggestion a thought? I know what is best for you," she stated, and I nodded my head for her benefit. She shook her head in amusement and walked into the hall. "Good night, Natalie," she said, and shut my door after her. "Good night, Mom," I returned quietly. Heaving a sigh, I settled on my bed to call Lisa.
"Hey, girl, what's up?"
I heard her cheery voice over the phone. "Hi, I need your advice."
"Oh, that sounds interesting. Spice up my boring life and spill." Sebastian invited me over for dinner at his place this evening. That's a step in the right direction. Have you gone there before? I need all the juicy details. It was a bad idea. Zara thought we were dating. She even said she thought I would make a good stepmom. That's great! No, Lisa, it's not. These dinners were supposed to be professional. Now Sebastian's daughter thinks we're a couple, I responded. What is Sebastian saying about this? Well, he said he likes me. He said he more than likes me. I knew it! Lisa screamed. Girl, calm down. Do you know what time it is? It's just 9 p.m., not midnight. I told you it was obvious he likes you. Sebastian is the real deal, she screamed again, and I laughed. So what did you say? I hope you didn't ruin the magical moment. I told him we shouldn't have our dinners together anymore. Playing hard to get? Good move. Make him wonder a little, but not too long. That would be cruel. I'm not playing hard to get. I don't think being in a relationship is a good idea, after what happened with Harry. I trailed off, not wanting to continue down that road. Seriously? Comparing Sebastian with Harry? He's nothing like Harry, and you know it. I sighed. No, I don't know anything. I'm such a fraud. Why is it so much easier when it's someone else? Well, you should just sleep on it and see how you feel in the morning. Whatever you decide to do, I'll support you, Lisa said. Thank you. That's why you're my best friend, I said, and sent her a kiss over the phone. I've got an early day tomorrow. Keep me updated. I'm thinking rose and powder blue for the wedding colors. I'll work on the theme, she stated, as her voice trailed off. Funny. If I ever get married, I may have to rethink my choice for maid of honor. She laughed. You wouldn't dare, she said, and I laughed with her. Of course, she knew I was joking. After we ended the call, I headed for the bathroom for a cool shower, needing to calm my nerves. I didn't hear from Sebastian all weekend. When Monday came, I was still a bundle of nerves, uncertain what it would be like at work now that I knew Sebastian had feelings for me. To my surprise, he was a complete gentleman, professional and courteous. I should have been happy, but I was miserable. The entire week, he didn't come talk to me in my office, not once. Whenever he had a question, he'd send Douglas. He was acting the way I'd asked him to, all business, and I absolutely hated it. By Thursday, I was a complete wreck, distracted, edgy, and even members of my team asked me if something was wrong. Something was wrong. I loved Sebastian, and I didn't know what to do about it. Less than a week not having his smiling face pop into my office, and I already missed him. When I woke up on Friday morning, I knew something had to change. When I got to work, I charged into Sebastian's office as if ready for battle. But I was ready to be honest. You win, I said without preamble. What? He looked up at me, startled. You were right. Some things are more important than work. We're more important. I love you, Sebastian, and I'll quit if I have to. But I can't go another minute with you treating me like I'm nothing more than your employee. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, an adorable smile forming on his lips. You don't need to quit to get what you want, Natalie. In fact, I've been working on a way to guarantee it. You have? I asked, confused. He shuffled through some papers on his desk and pulled out a file. I had my lawyers draw this up this week. Look for yourself. I opened the file and glanced over the first page of what looked like a contract. When I understood the meaning of it, my mouth dropped open. You're giving me my show? Yup. If you ever feel the need to leave Zencan, you can take your show with you. And with the success you've made it, any other company would be crazy not to hire you in a heartbeat. Sebastian, I don't know what to say. Thank you. I put the file down. But I don't think this was necessary. I walked around the desk until I was standing in front of him. Why not? He asked, looking up at me, his smile beaming. Because, I said, then I plopped myself down in his lap and kissed him. I don't want to be anywhere but here.
Chapter 14. Sebastian. I could have kissed Natalie all day, but when I heard a throat-clearing sound in my office doorway, Natalie popped up to her feet and we faced my secretary. She looked guilty and happy. Once she left after delivering her message, I looked up at Natalie and asked, "What do you say? Dinner at my house tonight?" "That would be perfect," she replied, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. I went home early to make sure everything was perfectly in place. I took delicate care to arrange the sitting room for a perfect proposal. I knew when she arrived. I felt a surge of excitement as I peered out the window. She was gorgeous. Zara ran towards her and they embraced. Zara was speaking animatedly about who knows what, but both of them were smiling. Wondering what was taking so long, and just as I was about to look out the window again to check if her car was still there, I heard the steady click of her heels. We all went into the dining room, where dinner was already waiting. Sitting down as we had the time before, we gave grace and started passing around the food. This time it was a heavenly-smelling pot roast with baked potatoes and carrots, one of Natalie's favorites according to her mother. I had done my homework. "Zara, what took you two so long to come in? You seemed absorbed in your conversation with Natalie."
"I told Natalie that Uncle Augustine said he would teach me to cook sometime, so I asked her if she would teach me to be a TV host. She said I could watch the show live sometime. Wouldn't that be cool, Dad?"
"That's a wonderful idea. I don't know how she did it, though. You've never wanted to come with me."
"Your job's no fun. Natalie gets to be on TV.
Point taken. Zara sure was one smart girl. The rest of dinner went well. We ate, chatted, and laughed a lot. Everything I ever wanted was happening right here, right now, and I didn't want it to end. As Zara and I had worked out earlier, she asked Natalie to read to her before bed. Natalie readily agreed.
"I'd love to, Zara. Let's go get you ready for bed and pick out a book." She said to me, "I'll be back down soon."
"Take your time. I'll clean up down here," I smiled, seeing how happy Natalie was. After putting the leftovers away and loading the dishwasher with the rinsed dishes, I went to the sitting room, where I waited and waited. When I heard Natalie call, "Sebastian?" As she came down the stairs, I called back to her, "In here." I held my breath, knowing that she'd be coming in at any moment. It was now or never. As soon as she appeared, I knelt down on one knee. She looked stunned, and for a moment wobbled like someone about to fall. Then she steadied herself, covering her mouth with her hand in shock as she moved closer. "Natalie, you have made a tremendous impact on my life, bringing me joy like I never expected to have again. You keep me grounded, yet on my toes continually challenged. I'm only half a man without you. Will you marry me?" I urged.
"I should probably say this is too sudden, but I have always loved you, Sebastian," she replied, teary. "Even when I couldn't see it in myself. I will marry you," she responded as I slid the engagement ring on her finger. I picked her up and swung her around as she cried on my shoulder. Overcome at this beautiful second chance at a genuine family, I couldn't contain my joy. I escorted her home, welcomed by cheers. Her mother Lisa and Augustine were excited for us, and we all talked late into the night. As I watched Natalie show off her engagement ring to all who cared to see it, it occurred to me without an ounce of doubt. Natalie was going to be my wife. Chapter 15. Natalie. Saturday, August 6th, 6 a.m. 1 year ago, Sebastian proposed. I stepped out of my rented room onto the wooden steps of the beach house. Then I ran down to the beach. Closing my eyes when I reached the shore, I allowed the gentle breeze to caress my skin. "It's my wedding day!" I screamed out to the seagulls diving in the water. They might be fishing, but I already had my catch. I looked heavenward, grateful to God for this beautiful moment he had given us, and I returned to the wooden steps.
As I sat and enjoyed the beautiful scene in front of me, I recalled all the days that had led to this moment, from the scandal at D News, to overcoming my insecurities and finally to accepting Sebastian's offer. I felt suddenly grateful to Harry for treating me the way he did. Had he not fired me, I would not be standing here now. I felt sorry for him too, but only a little. Helena got a better offer, with a younger executive at another station, and left D News without notice. Good luck and good riddance to them both. Lisa joined me and we held hands. "It's a beautiful day for a wedding, isn't it?" she asked, beaming. "Yes, it certainly is," I replied, returning her smile. "In a few hours, you will be a Mrs.," she stated, and I laughed, my mind full of thoughts of what Sebastian was doing right now. Perhaps he's still sleeping. He didn't need to do hair and makeup. "Come, let's get you ready," she said, and I stood and followed her in. After my bath, I dressed in my robe and sat in front of the mirror as the beautician styled my hair into a twisted bun, with several silver pins holding the braids in. Then on to the makeup artist. When she finished enhancing my face, all the girls walked out to the pines near the shore. We walked on the shore as they joked about my wedding night. Not too obvious since Zara was there. When it was time to finish getting dressed, we all held hands and said a prayer. Mom came up to me in tears as I stood in front of the mirror in the full-length A-line floral lace wedding dress. "Natalie, you look simply stunning. I know you both will be so happy." "Thank you, Mom," I responded and dabbed my eyes, which were also starting to tear up. "A letter just arrived from Sebastian," Lisa said, waving it in front of my face. I snatched it from her taunting hand. The girls surrounded me, all eager to hear what it said. "I need some air," I protested, laughing at the way they clustered around me. "Back it up! Give her some space!" Lisa spoke up as she urged the girls to sit. As soon as they settled, I sat and read my letter out loud, to their delight. "Dearest Natalie, you are my heartbeats. I woke up this morning full of songs in my heart, knowing today you will be my wife. It thrills me that this beautiful day has come. From the moment you accepted my proposal that fateful day, I knew we would be one, heart, body, and soul. As I prepare to bond with you, all I think about is how beautiful and perfect our union will be. No one intrigues me like you, Natalie. You make my insides dance. I am overcome with joy. My darling, I promise you will always have my love and adoration every day of our lives. You are everything I desire in a woman. You and Zara will always be my top priority. I bless the day you were born, Natalie. You are a symbol of truth in my life. I cannot see myself living this life without you. Thank you for taking a chance and saying yes to me. The time is here. Come quick, my bride-to-be. Your husband-to-be with all my love. Sebastian." I looked at the girls, friends, and family, full of smiles, eyes glistening with tears. They stood and gave me hugs, all but the wedding party leaving for Augustine's. The makeup artist had to touch up my face again because of the tears I had shed while reading the letter. The beautician attached my veil, and we took some pictures with Mom and the girls in front of the beach house. Then we all got in the limousine to drive to Augustine's restaurant, and the spot behind on the beach where my groom and his best man patiently waited. The band struck up the wedding march, and I held my flowers in place. Zara walked down the aisle, spreading flower petals as she went. Then Lisa came next, taking her spot as my maid of honor, opposite the best man, Augustine. My mother took my arm and escorted me to the front. When the preacher asked, "Who gives this woman away?" she smiled and said, "I do," then walked to her seat at the front, tears of joy streaming down her face. As we came down the aisle, I only had eyes for the handsome man waiting for me at the end. He was everything I had ever wanted, and everything I would ever need as a partner. I couldn't imagine ever being as blessed as I was in this moment, and I was so thankful. "You look even more beautiful than I imagined, Natalie," Sebastian whispered as I stood in front of him. "And you, even more handsome," I whispered back to him as we held hands and turned to the preacher, ready to become one. After a brief speech on the sanctity of marriage, he began with Sebastian. "Do you, Sebastian, accept Natalie to be your lawfully wedded wife, in sickness and in health, in poverty and in wealth, till death do you part?" "I do," he replied, looking into my eyes. Lisa handed me the wedding band and I placed it on Sebastian's finger. Then it was my turn. "Do you, Natalie, accept Sebastian to be your lawfully wedded husband, in sickness and in health, in poverty and in wealth, till death do you part?" I responded. Augustine gave me a wink as he passed my wedding ring to Sebastian. He slid the wedding ring on my finger. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride," the preacher announced. Sebastian held me gently by the waist and gave me the kiss that would seal our commitment for eternity. And in the history of the world, there has never been a more perfect kiss. Just my opinion, but mine is the only one here that matters. The preacher raised his hands to quiet the clapping crowd and said, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. King." Epilogue, Sebastian. Sitting down at a rushed breakfast, I tried to get a few words in before Natalie left to drop Zara at school. Natalie gave me a quick kiss and said, "See you at work."
"Bye, Dad,"
came from Zara as she grabbed her backpack and headed for the car. She was blooming and becoming more confident and independent every day, a true sign of Natalie's positive influence. "Bye," I mumbled to the empty house, feeling a little left out. In the moments of quiet I had before I also needed to leave, I thought about our honeymoon just 4 months earlier. The quiet, lazy days on the beach, sleeping in late after dancing the night away. Fiji was spectacular. Why couldn't every day be like that? Yes, I knew I was whining. I shouldn't complain. Zencan was topping all the charts. Natalie's show was only the start of a new infusion of great shows we had in production. Of course, it didn't hurt that D-News seemed under a bad luck omen since letting Natalie go. More likely their bad luck was a lack of good management, but the omen angle sounded more intriguing. Natalie had settled into our household as if she had always been there. Already, I couldn't remember what life had been like without her here. Every day I found another thing I loved about her. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something missing, though I couldn't think what it was. Heaven only knew, I guess. Shaking off my reverie, I put my dishes in the sink and set off for work. After another stellar day at work, we all came together at the dinner table to share our day. Natalie had made family dinners a requirement, and I believed it had done a lot in smoothing the transition for us all. It was the highlight of my day.
"Dad, can I take dance lessons with Katie?"
Zara asked as soon as we sat down. I looked at Natalie, but she just shrugged her shoulders, leaving the decision up to me. "I don't see why not. Maybe we can alternate with her parents on drop-off and pick-up. Why the sudden interest?"
"Katie loves her dance class and is always raving about it, so I want to try it. I don't have any other extracurriculars right now."
That was a new concept they learned in school this year. "Well, sure. It's good to try new things so you can find out what you like." Natalie seemed a little distracted at dinner. Since we worked all day together, we usually focused the dinner conversation on Zara. But tonight, Natalie seemed distracted and unusually inattentive to our conversations. Once Zara went to bed and we were alone in our room, I asked, "Honey, something bothering you tonight? You've been unusually quiet."
"Sorry, I just have something on my mind."
"Natalie, share with the rest of the class." I kidded to get her to smile.
"Well, I've been thinking about taking some time off from work to focus on our family. I have some ideas about who could replace me on the show that we should discuss."
"How much time are you thinking of taking off? We could have guest hosts on for a few weeks, no problem."
"I was thinking more like a few years, so we should get someone permanent."
I think that's a great idea. But that's a long time to be away from your work. Wouldn't you get bored? Zara's in school all day, and we have the housekeeper and cook, so how would you keep yourself busy?
I have some ideas, she said, dragging out the word.
Okay, what is it you're not telling me? I asked, a little more emphatically.
You know how I haven't been sleeping well lately? And I haven't been able to eat much lately? I went to the doctor today to see if they could tell me what was going on.
Don't be sick, don't be sick. You can't be sick, I thought, already panicking. I can't lose you so soon. It would be like Clara all over again. Having trouble drawing air to speak, I asked, "Are you sick, Natalie?" Startled by my question, she rushed to assure me. No, it's nothing like that. I'm fine. Probably better than fine. So what's going on? I asked, still concerned.
Taking a long breath in, Natalie said in a rush, "Well, we haven't talked about this, so I'm not sure how you're going to take it. What do you think about big families?"
Now, totally shocked and completely out of breath, I finally got out my question. Are you saying you're pregnant?
Yes, it turns out I am. I know the timing isn't great, but I've thought about it and I'm happy. I just hope you are too.
For a long moment, I just stared at her, totally speechless. Then I grabbed her in a hug, picked her up, and swung her around, yelling, "Yes, yes! I love you, Natalie!" I kept up hooting and hollering more nonsense words, so overjoyed I couldn't contain myself. Zara came running in, worried about all the noise.
"What's going on? Is something wrong?"
I put Natalie down and ran to Zara, picking her up and swinging her around. I shouted, "We're having a baby!" And in that moment I realized nothing was missing after all. The end.